Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Pillars of Eternity. I'm your host, Callus Fade. It's episode 104. We're in Elm's Reach. We're going to go to Terra Everdon. We're going to pray to some gods for some favors. Well, that was interesting. The game crashed while I tried to zone in here, so it took 2 attempts. Always nice when that happens. Can we see the whole map? We kind of can, can't we? This is the blocked passage and something over here. What is this? Okay. Oh. Scrolls, maybe? Final Journal of Jonas. Tomorrow I become the effigy. Tomorrow I become Skane's embodiment on Aora. Tomorrow my master chokes on his own whip. For months we met by secret conclave to plot our landlord's demise, all while working the fields if our hearts were content. Skane teaches us to plot with the mind while keeping one's face impassive, inscrutable. Fair fights are for those with armies. The quiet slave is our whetstone, our focus. In his worship, our cause finds focus, clarity, and possibility. Tomorrow my master chokes on his own whip. By the time you read this, I will be dead. I pray Skane does not abandon me for speaking of my plotting, but a son deserves to know how his father died. For I have volunteered to be the effigy. Skane will inhabit my body, using this old farmer's simple flesh as a puppet of godly rage. I have been shaved and anointed. Tomorrow morning I will be your father in name only, as my manhood will be removed, my nose and ears removed, and my useless mortal eyes will be replaced with flintstones through which Skane might see the world. My son, I am sorry for the lies I have told you these past few seasons, but Skane demands secrecy. Even your mother knows nothing of my furtive service to the quiet slave. Curse my name if you must, but never weep for me, for I die for the betterment of our community, to smite our Lord's corruption from the face of Aora. Tomorrow my master chokes on his own whip, or tomorrow I become the effigy. I think we saw that earlier in the game. Missives of the Hand Occult. Many Faces of Barath. Okay. So if you don't know anything about the gods at this point in time in the game, you can learn them here. 10 Years of Dawn, selected correspondence of Giftbringer Iden, the enigmatic god of cold. Remergran. Seemingly overlapping roles. Okay. What else do we have over here? What is this? It is a luminescent octashine. Okay. What about over here? More stuff. The Book of the Hunt. Daily affirmations of focus and efficiency. Excerpts from the Sermon of Struggle. The Midwife's Memoirs. So if you want to do a whole lot of reading, you can. The Queen that was and still is Wodaka. Okay. Well, then I think we're at this point. A man, it's your job.
For the age.
Well then, what do we have here? Okay, so we have Andra, Remergran, Abidan, Galawain, Magadon. We only have a few that we can touch. Barath. This should be Hylia. Okay, so here, if you're like me and you're unsure what's going on, we have to get a boon from a god, which is going to let us jump into this pit. It's the one way that we can follow the person that we have been hunting for the whole time. The way that he went has been disabled, so we can't go that way. So we have to jump into this pit. And what we need is to pray to one of these gods, and in doing so, we're going to determine all of the souls that have been stolen as part of our antagonist's job. All the devices earlier in the game that were used to rip souls and create that whole problem with babies being born without souls and the legacy, all that stuff. So there's 4 choices here. Galawain will distribute the essence to the existing souls in the Deerwood to strengthen them. Hylia will return the souls to the bodies they were intended for. Bareth will send the souls back into the reincarnation cycle. And Remergran will entropically disintegrate the souls, ending their existence. Then there's Skaen and Wodoka during Memories of the Ancients allow the souls to pass through the vein to Wodoka, and Whale will disperse the souls to an unknown location. That's later on. We're going to go with Hylia because I like this one. You also get bonus effects from this, and Gallowayne has really nice effects. You get +1 to might. With Bareth, you get +1 to resolve and +5 defense, which is really nice. +1 defense against paralyze and petrify. With Remergran, you get +1 constitution and +1 survival. With Hylia, you get +1 perception, which is the least useful of the 4 being offered here, and +1 lore. But that's what we're going to go with. So Hylia. The shrine sits before a bright constellation, its stars forming the oval shape of an egg. A pair of wings sprout from the egg, stretching out to either side. I believe these guys are going to give us a quest. Now, you could go to all 4 gods here and get quests from all of them in order to get their boons, but you only need 1 boon to jump down the pit. So, pray to Hylia. You step before the shrine and prepare to recite the ritual words. So, Hylia's boon. Okay. The ritual... Okay, that part I don't know. Hold on. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. Live every note of life's song. That is Hylia's ritual words. The words seem to ring in the air, your voice rendered melodic and lilting by some unseen art. So this is one of those things where, like, you need to keep a journal and write this stuff down as you discover it during the game. I can't even remember where we learned anything about Hylia, but whatever. That's where we're at. Thank God for wikis. Okay, apparently we have to pray to all 4 of them first, and then we can get a quest. So we're going to pray to Barath. And his is, there is life in death, and death in life. Let's see, where is that at? Right there. You kneel and pray to Barath. Even while your eyes are closed, you see a road that seems to stretch on forever. The stars wheel overhead in a clockwork rotation of constellations, disappearing over the horizon to your left, only to rise on your right. You try to make out the details on either side of the road, but your eyes can't seem to focus. One moment you think you see a meadow blanketed with mist, and another sheer canyon walls. For just an instant you even see waves lapping at the edge of the road. Were you to step into the shifting landscape, you feel certain you would only end up back on the road. You know this is a vision, but the packed dirt feels firm beneath your feet and the night air cool on your face. You are walking. Your feet seem to carry you forward of their own accord. Something looms ahead of you. As you get closer, you see 2 stone figures that look strangely familiar. The 2 faces of Kirono, what we call Barath. Pelagina shudders slightly, her feathers ruffling as she peers at the figures with apprehension. You remember the door to Cleobon Relag, and the 2 figures carved into the mountain next to it. One looks vaguely male and the other vaguely female. Only a thin layer of flesh covers their skeletal bodies, which twist to face the doorway between them. The doorway, however, is not what you saw in the ruins. It's a skull, gaping and jawless, and as you look on, its open mouth seems to grow. Arms of the 2 stone sculptures are swept toward the mouth, inviting you in. Okay. The road continues through the maw to another shifting landscape surrounded by stars. As you pass through it, you see an identical doorway in the distance. A dwarven man stands near it, unmoving. You turn and look behind you only to see the skull gate you just passed facing you. An elven woman waits in the road. Like the dwarf, she stands still. You start toward her. There's something unnatural about the way she stands. She's too still. When you get closer, you see that her legs taper into a slender trunk, and in place of her feet are gnarled, twisting roots. She lifts her face to an invisible sun. Her long golden hair is the color of autumn leaves, and as you look more closely, you realize that her head is actually covered with tendrils and vines sprouting brilliant yellow leaves. Each glimmers with the essence of an entire soul. She gives you a beatific smile. As you look on, the leaves slowly fall from her head and settle at her roots. They melt into the path beneath her, and almost immediately new leaves sprout in the place of the old. She reaches toward you, still smiling, as roots spring from her fingertips. Her outstretched arms bar the path. Come, graft your soul to the golden grove. No. Before you can flee, her roots twine around your shoulder. Yet as they do, they grow rigid and cold. Her outstretched arm petrifies, and as a rough stone bark overtakes her flesh, she can only look on in horror, break away from her brittle grasp. Her feet are rooted in place, but she twists and writhes as if trying to flee her own dying limb. The petrification reaches her shoulder and spreads down her body, freezing it in a painful arc. It creeps up her neck, and she throws her face skyward like a drowning swimmer. The grayness covers her face, freezing her gasp and stone. Now that she's still and lifeless, you can continue past her. Only the golden leaves on her head remain untouched, and as you watch, they fall one by one to the path below. They shrivel as the shimmering essence fades from them. You lift your gaze and see the dwarven man standing further down the road. You continue down the road toward him. He looks up at you as you approach, but you can't tell if he's looking at you or through you. His face is smooth but flaccid, as if the flesh is detached from the muscles underneath. As you look on, his face begins to change. Wrinkles crack at the corners of his eyes. His mouth sinks, carving deep lines from his nose to the corners of his lips. His jowls sag, and the loose flesh hangs like dough. He raises his cupped hands. They're covered in blood. He lifts them to his face and smears himself from his newly creased forehead to the wattles of his neck. As he massages the dark, sticky fluid into his skin, the fresh wrinkles disappear. The hanging folds recede and his flesh tightens, as if re-adhering to his skull. He lifts his head, and this time you know he's looking at you. His renewed face looks like a mask, artificially smooth and still. Behind it, his black eyes are two hungry pits, yawning like the empty mouths of skulls. Come, make your sacrifice to Ethic Knoll. No, I don't think so. The dwarf seizes you as you flee. You tear your arm from him, and his grip gives way with a noise like dried canvas ripping. His skin splits, following a long seam that begins at his arm and stretches the length of his body. Blood gushes forth in such quantities that you can't imagine there was ever anything else in him. Sure enough, as the dwarf empties of blood, he collapses like a desiccant husk. The blood in the path gleams with 1,000 souls worth of essence. The essence evaporates, trailing shining filaments into the night sky. Only now that he's dead can you continue forward. The blood pools around your feet, and a voice echoes along the road, barely more than a whisper on the breeze. Return them to the wheel. You look up and see the skull gate ahead of you. The candles of Ter Everin wink through the open mouth. So that's Barath. He will return them to the wheel. Gallowayne. Pray to Gallowayne. Gallowayne's is survival begins with strength from within. The air around you stirs and a gust of warm wind blows across the back of your neck. Catch the faintest smell of wet earth. And as you kneel in front of the shrine, you feel yourself pushed forward. Catch yourself on your hands and knees, feeling the warm, damp ground beneath them. Looking around, you find yourself crouched in a clearing in the middle of the woods. The smell of dirt hangs heavy in the air. Behind you is a darkened room filled with candlelit shrines. Ahead, you hear the howl of some kind of hound. You feel certain this is a vision, but the hairs on the nape of your neck still rise. I've come to seek Gallowayne's favor. The howling beast falls silent and you hear a rustling in the foliage nearby. Something is watching. Howl back. The beast bays in response, its voice high and clear. The thick undergrowth shivers with movement, and heavy paws pound the wet grass. You're not certain if the creature is hunting or leading you, but you instinctively give chase. As you tumble through dew-speckled bushes and clawing brambles, each stride feels longer than the last. You draw lungfuls of crisp, clear air and feel your energy renewed. The rhythm of your stride and the thumping of the beast's paws drive the blood thrumming into your ears. You speed ahead, following the hound's cries, when a split-finger pine crashes to the ground in front of you. A massive bear lunges into the gap and roars. It catches sight of you. You turn and race in the opposite direction, leaping over the fallen tree trunk. Pine cones crunch underfoot. The bear lumbers after you. Its hot breath washes over the back of your neck, filling your nose with the rank odor of slaughter. You see a clearing just past a thicket of broadleaves and sprint toward it. As you break through the foliage, you see a massive lioness curled up in the clearing in front of you. The last burst of energy, you divert your momentum and hurl yourself into the bushes. Any second now you expect to feel the bear fall upon you, but a furious roar on the other side of the clearing draws your attention. The bear has stopped at the tree line. It swipes the empty air with claws large enough to rend armor, but it does not advance. The lioness, for her part, twists her body into a tight coil. She growls, her ears pressed against her head, but she makes no move to attack the intruder. Whose idea was it to stand here? Adair says. You back deeper into the foliage, keeping your eyes on the two mighty predators. As you crawl backward, the heel of your hand brushes something furred. A warm sigh grazes your cheek. You freeze in place, slowly turning your head to see what waits behind you. Two amber eyes shine in the darkness. If I'm dying here, Adair says, at least it was with my friends. And Durrance. That's a good line. Your eyes, their eyes, the eyes meet your gaze briefly, then turn to the standoff in the clearing. The hound behind you yawns, fangs flashing. Galloway. When you turn back, the lion and the bear have disappeared. In their place is a stone wolf's maw, gaping wide enough to swallow you whole. Beyond it is the outline of a temple, towering but indistinct. Blood must feed the maw, watcher. See that the true champion reigns. Okay. That's interesting. Remergran. Pray to Remergran. Let's see. His is all life ends in stillness. You feel a sudden gust of cold air. You kneel and close your eyes, and as you pray, the blackness fades to white, and a howling wind fills your ears. The vision that slowly resolves itself is of a broad frozen plain. You see a procession of elves in the distance, periodically fading into and emerging from the whiteness. They trudge over snowbanks, their heads down against the driving winds. As they trek past you, one man bundled in furs turns his head. You headed for noon frost and the frost-hewn breach too? Before you can answer, he's lumbered ahead. You follow the caravan, and in a couple of minutes you come to a wall of ice. It disappears into the pale emptiness overhead. It stretches as far as you can see in either direction. The elves stop in front of a mirror-smooth section that's framed like a temple door. It seems somehow thinner than the rest of the wall. You can't see what's on the other side, but a debilitating cold emanates from within. A giant ice wall. Who could have thought of that? The elves pull pickaxes and shovels from their sealskin packs and begin hacking at the smooth ice, their implements flying through the air in swift, shining arcs. Though they throw their bodies into their labor, not one of them so much as scratches the polished ice. Yet with each blow, something bellows in the distance. Adair calls out to the elves, "Hey, you might want to hold off on that." But that howling wind seems to swallow up his voice. Pelaginia's head whips around to see where the bellowing is coming from. "Forget about the elves. We need to be ready to move." She turns again to face you, flexing her hands in the cold air. Or fight. The elves hack away, seemingly oblivious to the furious lowing and to the tremors under your feet. The snow has risen to your knees. Your legs feel frozen in the drifts. Try to get the elves' attention. You grab the nearest elf by the shoulder, shaking her and yelling over the howling winds. You point in the direction of the booming noise, but she only scowls. Leave us, traveler. We've got to get through. We can't stay on this side any longer. But you haven't even chipped the ice. I know. That's why we've got to keep working. You watch as the elves continue to work at the ice. They pay no heed to the rumbling roar or the numbing wind. Their movements, however, gradually slow. They labor at the ice with arduously sluggish movements until they finally freeze in place, some mid-swing and others preparing for the next blow. You touch the elf nearest you and he crumbles into a mound of snow. A final gale blows past, scattering the remains of the elves in a chaotic flurry. You notice a single spiderweb crack in the smooth barrier. It's the only thing that mars the perfect surface of the ice. Whatever's on the other side of the strange doorway, you feel it tugging at you. Only when you look back and see the parallel gashes trailing behind your legs in the snow do you realize how strong its pull is.
My end comes to all things in time. Seal the frost-hewn breach and instruct the pilgrims in the patience of Remergond.
Plug the hole with a handful of snow? You fill your hand with snow and shove it in the crack. It hardens instantly, and a hoary rime grows over your smooth surface of the frozen doorway, fusing it with the rest of the wall. When you take your hand away, a perfect crystal of ice remains in your palm. As you examine the crystal, the vision around you fades, but the unmelting shard of ice remains in your hand. Okay. Find Noonfrost in Twin Elves. Right to Hylia. So we didn't get this before, but now we do. You kneel. While you pray, you feel the space around your body shift and melt, and you find yourself in the vision of a mountaintop temple. A tree grows in the center of the ancient ruins. Its limbs wrap around the perimeter of the temple, tapering into twigs and branches of all sizes and angles. They seem too long and too numerous to be held up by the meager trunk, but they hold steady in the breeze. A single sparrow lands on the nearest branch, watches you. Whistle to the bird. You whistle the first tune that pops into your head. The sparrow blinks its beady eyes and hops closer to you along the branch. It bobs its tiny head and opens its beak, and the rich trilling melody that spills forth is the song of a chorus of birds. A massive flock descends with a thundering of wings and whooping, screeching, chirping calls. They fill the boughs of the tree by the thousands, birds of every shape, size, and color, nestling next to one another. Pelagina sighs heavily. To be honest, I really can't stand birds. A breeze ripples through the air. The limbs sway, creaking with a strange, gentle rhythm. A few hundred of the birds flit from their branches, forming a brilliantly variegated flock in front of you and the tree. As they meet and swoop in unison, you catch a glimpse of someone looking back at you, cloaked by the flurry of feathers.
You journeyed to my temple and rid it of the dragon. Now my faithful may return, singing their joy to the skies and praising me through their creation.
Wow. Cool. Now I was hoping to ask a favor.
A favor for a favor, is that it? Not an unwelcome suggestion, so long as we share one purpose.
I'm listening. The birds return to the tree and nestle amongst their peers. The breeze ripples through the branches again, carrying the goddess's voice.
You must stop Theos, and you must undo the tragedy he has wrought.
That's my plan. Birds all over the tree begin to chirp and sing, and in the rise and fall of their voices, Hylia speaks. Theos acts, but is moved by another. The exiled queen whispers in his ear, urges him to rob the living and the unborn of their souls for her benefit, and he has obeyed. She will consume them, grow powerful while 1,000 empty children are born, but there is still time to reverse this tragedy. Why would Wotica do this? Because she prizes authority over mercy, laws over kith. She values the souls of mortals not for the beauty they create, but for what they can add to her power. Does that not sound like some people in power right now. The wind blows cold. She fears animancy. She believes that mortals may use it to usurp the gods' power. Her power. She cares nothing for the innovation of Kith. And how could she? She gives commands, not inspiration. Sounds like Theos has collaborated with her for a long time. You know already that he has lived many lives. In each, it has been her voice in his ear, guiding him to serve her ambitions, urging him to protect her interests. This is what the Leaden Key has been, Aloth says, for centuries? The melody of the birds grows mournful, and each of his lives has been one stanza after another in a song of devotion to the Oathbinder. How could I return things to the way they were? The birds suddenly fall silent, watching you. The voice on the wind returns. Guide the trapped souls back to the bodies they were stolen from. Hollow-born children whose eyes have never seen the sun. You could restore them. Give their families hymns of joy after years of lament. The breeze tickles your ear. Peace and restoration give purpose to suffering. There is no meaning, no redemption in pain that does not lead to fulfillment. Symmetry demands that great rejoicing follow suffering such as this. Well, I'm not sure that it's possible to truly undo the harm Theos has caused. You hear the cry of a swift, soft, and plaintive. Perhaps the years cannot be forgotten, and for some, perhaps it's already too late. But if you could restore even one soul, kindle one spark of life, raise one voice in joy, it would be worth it. There's another side to this, Aloth says. You've seen the consequences of a soul disjointed from its own cycle. Could these children ever truly return? Thank you, Hylia. I will continue to sun and shadow.
When you reach the burial isle, you will find souls there that I have granted reprieve for their sins. I give these to you, for only they can bear you to safety on your journey down. And when you face Theos and the rotting fruits of his endeavors, remember the conversation we have had. In that moment, you will have power rivaling a god's. And after it, you will live in the world that you have chosen.
So by killing the dragon, we've already accomplished her quest for her boon. That's awesome.
Choose Restoration, Watcher.
Yeah.
Return the souls to the bodies they were stolen from. Swear to me that you will do this, and I shall give you power to make even Woodica quake. I can be merciful and terrible, Watcher.
I swear to return the souls to the hollow-born children in the Deerwood. And I shall remember, she says. The dark wings snap shut and the tiny sparrow flits to your shoulder. It tilts its head back and opens its beak, and the song that spills forth is like nothing you've ever heard. Melodies at once mournful and beautiful entrance you. The world becomes a place of pure color and sound. Each perfect moment follows the next, like the lines of a poem or the bar of a song.
Wait, I'm not done with you.
Pelagina steps forward inside the flock of birds. The birds wheel and pivot, showing a flash of pale feathers. Who is this that speaks in anger? You owe Pelagina some answers. There's a pause as the birds settle on the branches and regard her. Questions flutter and circle in her mind. Let her ask what she will.
It's not often that any of our kind get the chance to speak to their... What should I call you? My mother? Father? Those words seem to fall short and yet be too generous, given our history.
The birds cock their heads, craning and twisting their necks to look at one another. You are angry with me.
What did you expect? Should I be happy? To be like this? To live like this? What kind of creator does this to her creation and abandons it in a world this cruel?
Hylia says, and I should have plucked you from your home, wrapped you in my wings, and brought you to a nest like this one? some tranquil and harmonious place far from the war chants and battle dances you love so well? A hawk shivers, ruffling its feathers. Tell me what you want.
All I've ever wanted from any of your kind is to take some responsibility. Any responsibility for what you've done. To us. To every one of the children you've abandoned.
The birds flap their wings, rising from the branches. You are a song of ferocity, and one I love well. I hear your furor and rage, and it is music. Your prowess and valor leave a trail like a tapestry upon the world. I would not dampen your song, even with the comfort of my wings.
What does that mean? Come back here!
I'm sorry you didn't get the answers you were looking for, Pelagina. You deserve better.
We all deserve better.
Well, there we go. A nest above the clouds. Quest completed. So, onward. Oh, and then we have Durance. Well, let's see what he... Grand adventure completed. Let's see what Durance has
What
to
is
say.
it, Watcher?
This is what we learned about Wodica, probably.
It stinks of her. It is justice, but if her greater purpose was to think Margaret would fall prey to such deceit. And Aethys, Widewind had always claimed to be invading Deerwood to free it. What if it were true? What if he had come to stop Wodica's plot before it began?
Oh, are you going to be sad now that you were on the wrong side of history?
Surely Aethys earned his death at Godhammer Citadel, but not for those reasons. Not to keep him silent. If such a thing has brought about this chaos...
Durance tilts his head as if listening to an inner voice, and then he frowns, the frown deepening as he speaks.
Must we always be tools of gods? If Wodica and Margaret, if they are the cause of this, the Hollowborn, if the purges were never necessary, if Aethys was fighting back...
Then your Godhammer didn't save the Deerwood. It doomed it.
So many lies. And Wodica, perhaps she is the next god to fall beneath the Godhammer.
Would it have been better had you been spared this knowledge? Oh, see, look, we got a video game here dealing with information that contradicts what they came to believe. You know what we do in America? We just double down on our misbeliefs. You could just double down, Durance. You don't have to be pained by this new knowledge. You could just double down on your ignorance.
No, I am glad to have walked this far with you, seen this truth.
Durance is definitely not an American.
Perhaps it was what I was meant to see, with a watcher's eyes.
There you go.
All these dances of words and intrigues, machines of men, twisted, ripping the souls of children, and by the gods, the goddess of justice. If I could end her like Aethys, Margaret burned her once. One can do so again. Wodica, she must answer to her own justice.
Justice or revenge?
Anyone with a shred of spirit seeks both justice and punishment. It burns in the heart of anyone who lives. All seek it. If the world does not balance, we all drown in the oceans. And the gods would not care. Margaret, she must be redeemed. And punishing Wodica, that will serve.
Margaret was allied with Wodica. She tried to kill all the makers of the Godhammer.
Is this some final joke at my expense? To test my faith further? And why would you think that, Watcher?
Let's see, what are our choices here? The others who made the Godhammer, they all died, didn't they? That's why I saw their symbols fade from your staff.
If all you have are questions, then I have enough of those. She is a bitch of a goddess, to be sure, But even a whore only goes so far in crossing those she serves.
You said you left Ashfall without telling anyone of your departure.
You answer a question with a question. Then why did I feel her disappointment at Halgot? Why were we shamed?
Because I think she tried to kill you there.
Kill me? She is a goddess. I still drink from her burning breasts, Watcher. If she wished me dead, she could trace me to my source and kill me.
In the dream of the Godhammer, your spirit looked blurred, indistinct in the light, as if it had been sheared from you. Durant stares at you, his expression frozen, but he's silent, listening. If you had been damaged, as I saw in the Godhammer's vision, then she may be unable to see you as you once were. Durant turns from you for a moment. His face twists in thought, conflicting emotions running across his features. Finally, he turns to you, his face steady.
There's no proof, Watcher. I was a fool to think you could help me see any farther than I could.
If you don't trust me, then trust your staff. Admit that the other Godhammer builders are dead. Durant turns to the staff, and for a moment you see his eyes burning, taking in the edges of the wood, the symbols inlaid there, the 11 faded circles.
They died in the blast, yes, the other 11. I was the only one to walk away. I thought we had wronged our goddess, that this was my trial, and if I could prove myself worthy of her, I should have known better. There is only one God of redemption, and I saw him ended.
As he studies the staff, you feel a wave of heat. Terrible energy rolling forth from it, waves. So much so it feels as if the Godhammer itself is alive in his hands. And past it, you hear it cry, like a child being born. And your eyes feel the flash of white, and then 100 imagined shades of purple and white streaming and circling into the howling of a storm. And beneath it, the grinding of ancient machines of stone, rock, and metal, grinding and turning until all around you feels as if it's burning, sinking into the shadows of the earth, beneath the ground, the only place where a spirit might find refuge. When your vision clears, you see Durance, his hands clutching the staff, and his eyes are bright, burning red. Atop the staff, the flame burns cleanly, brightly. As his gaze burns, he rips his gaze away and howls, a bellowing, horrid howl like a wounded animal, and the sweat pours down his brow. We can see that justice is served, to her and Wodika both.
To think I served her, I followed her. Now I shall serve no one. Wodika's lies must be answered. And now it seems I must take fire and war from a goddess's false claim as well. I still take from her strength as I did, for as long as it lasts. For I shall not cast her aside yet, until I have drained her dry and had my fill, just as she intended for me. For I have learned one of the lessons of the faithful. The faithful may wound a goddess greater than any enemy. A purification is coming, and this fire shall consume them both.
Quest updated. The Trials of Durance. Servant of Death. Let's see. Those are new quests. Where's his? It's way down. Trials of Durance. Where is it at? Okay, hold on. Council of Stars. Descend into the pit. Okay. Oh, a quest is completed. Okay, there we go. Well, that's it. Durance knows the truth now. Feeling a little used there, buddy. Okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to end this episode here. It's been a whole lot of no action and a lot of talking. But now we have the next part. We need to move and jump down this thing. Council of Stars. Descend the pit of Burl Isle to breath. Amen. So we're really close to the end. Everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this whole thing. I will see you on the next episode. As always, if you dig it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave your questions and comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Until then, happy gaming, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Pillars of Eternity. I'm your host, Colors Fade. It's episode 105, and we just left Terra Everon and appeared in Elm's Reach, and these spirits showed up, so we're going to find out what these guys want.
You're
Soldier!
in the wrong city, Inquisitor.
Oh, Inquisitor.
Did you think you wouldn't be recognized here in your old home? I've seen your trials with my own eyes.
I've seen you light pyres with good people tied to them. People I'd known many a year. He seizes you by the throat in your AOA Titans. Whether real or imagined, you cannot tell. They deserve your confession. He raises the point of his sword, holding it a hair's breadth from your eye.
Suros, what are you doing?
Startled, the soldier releases you immediately and turns to face the speaker, a woman in a plain wool tunic, fully a head shorter than he, but somehow seeming to tower over him. You have seen this woman's face before, but from afar, bloodied and burned as she lay stretched across an iron wheel. At the moment, it is marked only with concern.
An assassin sent by the Inquisition, my lady, daring to approach our camp.
If he is so poor an assassin as to approach an armed guard in daylight, I should have nothing to fear. I would hear what this man has to say. She stares him down until he can no longer face her. He turns away, sour-faced, watching you through sidelong glances, his knuckles white around the pommel of his sword.
My own brother, returned home. I never dreamed this day would come.
Grand Inquisitor Theos Ex Arcanon dispatched me here to spy on you. Irovar doesn't blink. Are things as desperate as that over there? I'd have never known. I hope your next assignment is more stimulating. Listening to my lectures is dull work for a spy. But there are a few things stronger than the bonds of family. I should never have doubted we'd be reunited one day. Whatever your reasons, I've missed you over all these years. Having you here now at a time when I'm surrounded by strangers is a wonderful gift.
I would like for you to stay here in our camp as my guest.
My lady Irvara, I beg of you. This is an Inquisitor. This is a desperate attempt on your life. The only way it can succeed is if you allow it to.
This is a missionary, same as I was. Taught the wrong things as I was. If I can't have faith in one man's ability to reason, once he knows the truth, what hope do we have?
My lady, he admits being a spy.
That should make him less of a threat, wouldn't you agree? I have nothing to hide. All I see here is an opportunity to persuade someone who could help us. We have many former missionaries here. They are our most loyal, our most helpful. Many have died for us. These are not people we should be turning away. And if the Inquisition wants my life, they can have it. But they know as well as I do that my cause will not die with me. Come. We have much to talk about.
Well then, so that's really interesting. Blood Sands. What is Blood Sands? And what is the Hall of Warriors? I have to do some exploring before we depart. Wonder. I always get to this point in the game and I'm just like in a hurry to get it over with because it's been so long to get here. There seems to be a magic number of hours in a video game for me, and that is somewhere between 60 and 100. And once a game crosses over the 100-hour threshold, I really get antsy and I just want it to get to the end.